Hello everybody, I'm Deborah Fleming Bradley. Welcome to my space where I inspire women to aim high in their lives. The last time we spoke, I told you there were 5 things that I've used throughout my life to help me reach the point of prosperity. There was self-motivation, self-discipline, self-regulation, self-respect, and self-esteem. Today I'm going to talk to you about self-discipline, the ability to control one's emotions and feelings and to overcome one's weaknesses. In my welcome blog, I told you that I had reached a point of prosperity. I've raised 4 beautiful kids in which all 4 are entrepreneurs. My oldest son is a real estate agent, my second born owns an apparel and embroidery company, and my 2 baby girls just launched an online clothing boutique. And the icing on the cake is that I married a compassionate man and we just celebrated 26 years last month. What would you say if I told you that my life wasn't always this way? What if I told you that my family, my faith, and finances were in jeopardy? Well, it's true, and here's my story. 5 years ago, my husband was terminated from his company. And as I've already told you, we're raising 4 kids. I had 2 in college and I had 2 in high school. And during that time, we had a very healthy income. But when he lost that position in that company, our finances were in jeopardy. My husband and I made a decision that we would no longer depend on any man to feed our family. We had to execute our own plan and we had to do it quickly. During this process, I received a call from my second born son. And before he could tell me why he was calling, I said to him, "Hey, I am so glad that you called. I was hoping that I could pick you up today off of campus so we could go home and take our family pictures this weekend. I just don't want to come back downtown." And he says to me, "Mom, the reason why I'm calling you is because I can't walk." And I was like, "What do you mean that you can't walk?" And he says, "I've been vomiting today. I don't feel good and I can't walk." My heart dropped. I was shocked. I was breathing heavy. I was like, why in the world would my son not be able to walk right now? And he was so calm, but I was shaken to my core and I was just like, what is going on? What is happening? Why can't my son walk? And I said to him, "Do you need me to call 911? And he cried and he said, "Yes, please call 911. That day, my whole world flipped. It was turned upside down. My son couldn't walk. He said his head was exploding with pain. He couldn't use one side of his body. There was nothing that we could do about it. My husband couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't do anything about it. And when the emergency room doctor stepped in, he told us that our son had been diagnosed with viral meningitis. Day 1 in the hospital, my son was fighting for his life. He had lost his appetite. He wouldn't eat anything. His head was exploding with pain. He couldn't move the left side of his body. And my husband and I couldn't do anything about it. He had to fight through the virus, and all we could do was sit there and watch him go through his pain. Day 2, we don't tell anyone. We just pray for our son, and we're there beside his bed every day, every night. My husband and I are changing shifts. Day 3, we still haven't told anyone in the family, not even our kids, because we didn't want to disrupt their lives. They were in school, and we needed them to focus on their studies. Also on day 3, when I walked into the hospital room very early in the morning to relieve my husband so he could go home and get some rest, he says he needs to speak to me. So I thought something else was wrong with my son, and I couldn't take another day of not knowing how my son was going to make it throughout the day. And so my husband tells me outside the door, he said, "I launched our business today." And all I could do was cry. I hugged him, I told him I loved him, and I cried that day, but not in front of my son. I was already at my weakest point. I had to control my emotions and my feelings. I couldn't cry in front of my son. He needed to see that he was going to be okay. He needed my strength. Day 4, they start feeding my son through a tube so he could have his strength and try to get up and walk around to see if everything was healing properly. He was still in a lot of pain and his fever kept spiking to 104 degrees every single night. Days 5 and 6, the CDC and the infectious disease doctors come in and they say that our son is getting better, that he's going to be okay, but they need him to get up and walk. And they weren't sure because of all the inflammation that he had on his brain. They didn't know what kind of damage he had, but they needed him to get up and they needed him to eat. They needed him to walk. And I was kind of worried about it because when he would try to walk, he was losing his balance, and I didn't want him to fall or hurt himself. He was already in pain. But on day 7, thank you, God, I heard him get up. He woke me up, and he was walking with his bag pole, and he walked around, and he said, "Hey, Mom, I'm ready to go home." And he goes, "I think I can try to walk today." So he went out in front of the nurses, and he walked for a couple of seconds. And my heart was pounding. It was the longest 10-15 seconds ever of my life, watching him walk, holding onto that pole, grasping onto it to let them know that he was ready to go home. A couple of months after my son was released from the hospital, my husband would have his first national convention for the same company that he launched beside my son's hospital bed. How can you build up your self-discipline? You want to build it strong. And remember, I told you that you have to take action and you have to implement it every single day to get to your point of prosperity. In Entrepreneur Magazine, there's an article written by Deep Patel about the 10 most powerful ways to build self-discipline. The 10 powerful ways to master self-discipline are: know your weaknesses, remove all temptations, set clear goals, and have an execution plan. Build your discipline. Remember, you have to take action and practice this every single day to reach your point of prosperity. Create new habits. Eat often and eat healthy. Change your perception about willpower. Have a backup plan. Reward yourself. And lastly, forgive yourself and move forward. As for my son, he appreciates all the prayers, and he just celebrated his 24th birthday. Don't forget to follow me on all social media, and if you want to read the full details of the entire story about my self-discipline journey, go to www.deborahflemingbradley.com. Thank you.